The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Camp Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 200x your entry with the Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim your special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $50 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by the Mega Memorial Day merch sale. 15% off everything in the SGPN merch store with the promo code SGPN May. Act now as the sale does end on Friday. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently early Sunday morning, roughly 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time on June 2nd. I'm Rosso, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Should be a fun episode because it is time to preview the fourth round of the French Open. So we're going to go through some, not all of the matches, getting into my thoughts and analysis on some matchups. Then we'll save the favorite plays for the end of the show in the Lock and Dog segment. Before intending that, though, do want to remind you once again to like, subscribe on YouTube. Also, a reminder to rate the podcast on Spotify or Apple. So no matter how you consume the podcast, you can support the show. So I recommend you once again showing some feedback and just letting me know if you do enjoy the show. Also, a reminder to check out the SGPN merch store because we do have Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. We have shirts, sweatshirts, and now we have mugs. So we got a lot of high-quality merchandise, not just for this show, but also for other shows with the networks. Keep that in mind. And if you want to actually talk about an example of that, we have the college experience, obviously, and you do have the college baseball tournament going around. A lot of crazy games over the weekend, and tournaments just getting started. And you're looking at Noah Bieniek, who has you covered with the college baseball experience. sportscampodcast.com/bracket. But once again, check out the college experience if you do want some college baseball betting analysis. Either way, time to start off with the actual recap of the third round, starting off with the lock and dog picks. Overall, decent episode. I think we got most of the leans right, actually, for the sides. But for the lock and dog, ended up splitting. For the lock, had an easy win. We had Felix money line at minus 155. Could have taken the spread. Either way, whatever you wanted, it ended up winning. You could have taken him in straight sets, and it would have won. It's weird because Shelton has the reputation from the odds makers of being a pretty good clay player, and he's not. I think he's actually kind of below average. And either way, you ended up seeing Felix destroy him, 6-4, 6-2, 6-1. So nice, easy, sweat-free winner there. Match did get delayed. Didn't matter, though, as Felix did win to cash the lock in straight sets. For the dog, ended up losing as we had Chapo first set money line at plus 135. Hurkacz had struggled in first sets in the last couple of rounds, but not in that match because Chapo went down to break early. It was never able to get it back as he ended up losing the first set 6-3. Point is, though, ended up splitting, so it could have been better, could have been worse, but either way, I'll look for a sweep here in the fourth round. Do see a question in the comment section from Midnight Gambler, sub-midnight, asking me if we're going to get tennis tomorrow or if we're going to get more rain. My answer is yes. We're probably going to get both. I feel like rain's been the story of the tournament. It's why we've had so many delays. It's why Djokovic's match, for example, ended at, I forgot what time it ended, 2 a.m. local, 3 a.m. local. It was something stupid. It is matchup against Musetti, but I'll get into the recap of the third round matches right now. Point is, though, for the lock and dog, ended up splitting. For the third round, starting off with the matches that took place on Friday, we had an upset as Rublev got upset by Arnaldi in straight sets. So Rublev kind of had a temper tantrum. Arnaldi was great, and Italians have actually done well in this event so far. Arnaldi ended up winning, and Sinner won right after as he beat Kotov in straight sets. Tsitsipas beat Zhang. I thought he would beat Zhang, but I thought maybe he'd lose a set. That did not happen as he ended up dropping 7 games in the entire match. Mutet beat Offner in 4. That was something I expected, and I thought Alcaraz would beat Korda in straight sets, and he did. Korda, once again, good player, not amazing, and you saw him get outclassed in big moments and big points because Korda, I think, is a choker, and I think that he is extremely mentally weak. So either way, Alcaraz won in straight sets. A good overall first day for the third round for us. Moving on to the Saturday slate, definitely not as good, but still pretty solid. We thought Struff would beat Dimmenauer. Ended up winning the first set. Then he fell apart as Dimmenauer did win in 4. Besides that, we thought Medvedev was going to win. But we did think Makic should keep it competitive, and he did. Makic should cover the spread. He won a set, and as a result, you ended up cashing all your Makic bets besides the money line. Zverev had a thrilling comeback. He was down a double break in the 5th set to Griekspoor. Griekspoor then fell apart, and Zverev did win in a super breaker 10-3. You had Hurkacz beating Chapo in 4. I thought that Chapo was potentially live to win the match. I thought Hurkacz would most likely get the job done, but I thought it'd be competitive. And even though it did go to 4, I thought it'd be more competitive than it was. I was not expecting a 6-1 in the final set. Rune ended up beating Kovalik in straight sets. Sarundalo ended up beating Paul in 4. Good win for him. Thought it might go 5, but the over 3.5 sets was a pretty safe option for a parlay piece in that matchup. Thought that Fritz and Kokkinakis would kill each other, and they did, as that went to 5 sets. Fritz did get the job done, as he did win the final set 6-3. Dimitrov beat Bergs in 4. Thought that was going to be kind of what happened. Bergs, I think, is a solid player. Dimitrov's better, and Dimitrov did win that one relatively comfortably in 4. Ruud beat Echeverry in 4, so either way, you had 3 lopsided sets to end it, and Ruud did win the last 2 of them. And then you had a marathon. You had the Djokovic match against Musetti at the end of the day, where Djokovic was down 2-1, won the 4th set, 6-3, and then Musetti had nothing left in the gas tank, and Djokovic did win the final set 6-0. Now, that match was competitive, and even though Musetti ended up losing the final set with a 6-0, we did like the plus 7.5 games, and that got there. So overall, Musetti got the job done for us. We did think Djokovic would win, but we thought Musetti was alive to win a set and beyond, and he did. He just eventually ran out of gas, but it really had no impact on the spread for the actual match. So good read in general for most of the matches in the 3rd round. Hopefully that carries over into the 4th round. As for the women's side, briefly recapping the actual future plays that we have, overall not bad actually. So far, knock on wood, we do have all of our quarter picks, or at least I'll put it this way, we have at least one option in each quarter that's still alive. So that's definitely a good sign. Hopefully that continues moving forward. Quickly seeing if I have the banners prepared. I do not. But thinking on the top of my head of who we have, for example, we have Jabor, we have Rybakina, we have Sabalenka, we have Vendrosova, who we have as well. So we have at least one person left right now in each quarter, and we'll see how that goes. A lot of big prices. We did lose Haddad Maya, so we did lose one of our outrights to win the event. She was like 110-1. But we still have Rybakina, we still have Sabalenka. So for the most part, knock on wood, pretty solid overall women's event for us. So we'll see what happens moving forward. As for the men's side, doing pretty well with the quarters as well. Getting into those quickly, that I do have in front of me. For the first quarter, we have Ruud. Of course, he's still alive at 260. For the second quarter, we lost somebody. We did lose Kashanov at 18-1, as he lost to Kovalik. But we have Rune at 9-1, and we have Dimonauer at 24-1. So we still have 2 options there in the second quarter. For the third quarter, we have Alcaraz. For the fourth quarter, we have Sinner, and we also have Hurkacz. So we only lost one guy out of the quarters. So definitely a good sign for the outrights, and hopefully they get over the finish line, at least one of them, and we end up paying for everything with one relative long shot. If Dimonauer does win the second quarter, hypothetically, as a plus 2,400, that'll be massive for us. So knock on wood, and we'll see what happens, but overall a good tournament for us. Anyway, time to get into the actual preview of the 4th round. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Nordic Fantasy, and the NBA playoffs are here. A little bit of a gap, though. I believe the NBA Finals are starting on Thursday. Our sponsor, Nordic Fantasy, wants to make the finals all more interesting because it is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports, and you can win up to 100x your money, and it's a ton of fun. Odds available in 30+ states, including California, Texas, and Canada. They also have a lot of great options for tennis. They have aces, double faults, breaks of serve, a lot of fun ways to make tennis more interesting. So I recommend checking out that platform. They also have a lot of great promos. They have bonus cash airdrops, they have specials, giveaways, and more throughout the playoffs. So make sure to follow Underdog Picks on Twitter to keep an eye out. A reminder, it's available in 30+ states, including California and Texas, and also Canada. They also just launched Champions, their player versus player format in Florida. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim your special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $50 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping the 3rd round. Now it's time to preview the 4th round of the French Open. So getting into the actual matches, we're going to go in order. I believe we have lines on all of the matches. So we're not going to cover all of them. We're going to save a couple for the end of the show for the Lock and Dog segment. So just keep that in mind. Either way, though, starting off with the actual 4th round. The first match on the slate, you have a matchup between Arnaldi and Tsitsipas, taking place at around 6:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Tsitsipas, pretty big favorite, minus 480. You have Arnaldi at plus 390. For the game spread, you have -6 for Tsitsipas, +6 for Arnaldi. Over for games is set at 35.5 at -110. If you want the set wagering, over 3.5 sets is -140. Tsitsipas in straight sets is available at +125. Arnaldi to win a set is -155. Now, at first glance for this matchup, I think Tsitsipas is going to win. However, it would not shock me if Arnaldi made the match very interesting. I thought Zhang would potentially hang in there against Tsitsipas, and he did not. I didn't think he'd win the match, but I thought that he'd be able to do a little bit more damage than he did. Arnaldi, though, just beat Rublev. His confidence should be pretty high, and you're looking at him only dropping one set in the event against Fils. So he beat Muller in straight sets, beat Rublev in straight sets. Tsitsipas, though, has been solid. Ended up beating Zhang in straight sets, beat Altmaier in 4, and beat Fucsovics in 3. No head-to-head history between the two players. If I had to go for any angle, I probably would assume Tsitsipas is going to win, but I would consider the over 3.5 sets. I think that you're looking at what should go 4, in my opinion. So maybe if you want to go for Tsitsipas, his -1.5 sets are -215. I can't take that. Arnaldi to win 8 sets, -155. I think I'd rather take the over 3.5 sets. I think Tsitsipas eventually will win, but I do think Arnaldi is good enough to at least not leave empty-handedly, and I think that he'll be able, or I might have just butchered the actual saying of that. I think he won't leave empty-handed. I think he'll be able to win something. So give me Arnaldi to win a set, and I think that the over 3.5 sets is worth a look in that one. Moving on to the next matchup. You have a matchup between Felix and Alcaraz. To be honest, really don't want to spend much time on this one. He's a massive favorite. Alcaraz is around -750. Felix did us a solid as he beat Shelton in straight sets. I think Alcaraz wins probably in straight sets. I'm not going to spend much time on it. I think Felix is a good clay player, but I think Alcaraz is just going to be too solid in the big moments. Maybe a breaker in there, so I guess I would lean to Alcaraz to not cover the 7 games. But I do think for the sake of this matchup, I'm just picking Alcaraz to win. Not going to spend much time on it, so I am going to pass. Don't see much value on anything else. Moving on to the next match on the card. I said we're going to skip a couple matches. Skipping the next match, going to look at a matchup between Moutet and Sinner. For this one, Sinner is a massive favorite. He's around -1,500. Moutet is +900. For the actual spread, you have 8.5 games, -8.5 for Sinner, +8.5 for Moutet. Really, the only conversation you have for this matchup is if you think Moutet can win a set. Because under 3.5 sets is -165. Sinner to win in straight sets is -155. So the question is, do I think Moutet can actually do something in this match besides getting killed in straight sets? In reality, I think Sinner's going to win in straight sets. Now, Moutet has been good so far in the event. The home crowd's been behind him. Not many Frenchmen left in the event. He might actually be the only Frenchman left. I think he is. But the point is, we're looking at his performances so far in the event. Beat Jari in 4, beat Shevchenko in 4, and beat Offner in 4. So good showings there. Sinner, though, has not dropped a set yet. Beat Eubanks, beat Gasquet, and beat Kotov. The issue I have, no head-to-head history, by the way. The issue that I have with Moutet is that he's not a good server. And I think that Sinner, with his firepower and his overall serve, should really have an easy job of actually, I'd say, keeping pace with the serve. And I think you're looking at Moutet eventually getting a little bit, I'd say, shaky and potentially in his own head. We know Moutet is really a fan of the theatrics. I would say that it's close to Kyrgios' theatric level. Probably same theater, same school of theater, but the point is, I do think that eventually his serve's going to betray him. I think Sinner has the overall firepower to make Moutet run around. Moutet's also a pretty short guy, and I do think that Sinner can, once again, really force Moutet to run all over the court. I think Sinner wins in straight sets. I think it's a pretty cheap price, actually, for a guy that's a -1,500 favorite to win in straight sets at like -150. I don't mind that. I'll take Sinner in straight sets. Maybe Moutet can go up a break at some point, but I don't trust him to actually hold 6 straight games in this match. So if Sinner's going to be able to get at least 1 break per set, and Moutet might not be able to do the same against Sinner, I think there's value in the straight sets market there for Sinner. That'll be my pick for that matchup. Moving on to the next day, actually. Going to look at a matchup between Djokovic and Cerundolo. Now, we do not actually have the official times for the Monday matches, so we're just going to read all 4 of them off in order. Djokovic, though, is -1,250. Cerundolo is +700. We saw Djokovic struggle a bit against Musetti, who was really playing great tennis. I really did not think Djokovic was playing badly for the first 3 sets. I just thought Musetti was playing red line tennis, and then eventually his level crashed back down, and Djokovic just stayed the same, and he won via bagel in the 5th. Now, they never faced off against each other. Cerundolo, though, has been good here, and we know he's a good clay player. did beat Hanfin in straight sets, beat Misalic in straight sets, ended up beating Paul in 4. Good win against Paul. I was wrong about that one. Thought that Paul would win, but I did like the over 3.5 sets in a parlay, and that got there. Either way, though, Djokovic, though, has been solid. Beat Herbert. Didn't really look great in that match, but he won in straight sets. Beat Baena. Didn't look great in the first set, then dominated the final 2 sets, and then ended up struggling in the first 3 sets against Musetti, and then dominated the last 2. So Djokovic has been vulnerable up to this point. And I think the main argument that I would have for this match is take Cerundolo plus the games. I think that even though Joker's going to win, I do wonder about fatigue, and I do wonder about his overall form and just the overall trust level with Djokovic, because it does seem like even though he's been winning, he has not been dominant for large portions of these matches. He's kind of let the other guy hang around. He might even fall behind a break, and I think he might have to bounce back. But I think Cerundolo can actually win a set here. I think Cerundolo is capable of capitalizing on a Djokovic that might be slow out of the gates, and I do think that you're looking at what should be a pretty competitive and interesting match. Yes, Van, this is live, so welcome to the live stream. But looking at the actual odds, I don't have any set spreads right now or anything like that, but I think I'd have to lean to the games. If I had to infer on what the games might be, I might be able to actually pull it up, so just give me a second. But if Djokovic is laying north of 7 on the games, I think I got to take the dog here. I just think that you're looking at Djokovic kind of being, I don't want to say overrated, because I think he's definitely going to beat Cerundolo, but I do think that he has been vulnerable, and he's off a 5-setter. He's older. I wonder if the rehab process or the rest process is going to be able to take full effect. We'll see. Maybe it gets off to a slow start, but I do think that you're looking at Cerundolo, who could make the match kind of interesting. He's 8-1 on the money line. If you want to pull up him to win a set, for example, you can find him to win a set at even money. If you want to go for the spread, you can find him plus 8.5 games at minus 120. 8.5 is massive. I think that's too many games. I think Djokovic will win, but we have not exactly seen him coast per se. Give me Cerundolo plus the 8.5 games. That line feels massive to me. Moving on to the next matchup, we're going to skip the next one, a matchup between Zverev and Rune. This one might be the best matchup on paper. You could argue that it might be Fritz Ruud or maybe Dimenauer and Medvedev based on history. But Rune and Zverev should be a lot of fun. Now, Zverev is a decent favorite, as Zverev is around minus 225. Rune is plus 195. For the game spread, you have minus 4 for Zverev, plus 4 for Rune. Over-under in games is somewhere between 38 and 39. For set wagering, you have the over 3.5 sets at minus 175. You have the 4.5 sets, the overs plus 230. You have Zverev minus 1.5 sets at minus 120. Rune plus 1.5 sets at minus 110. If you want to go for anything else, you can find alternative lines, but you have to shop your lines to make sure you get the best price. For the head-to-head between these players, though, they have faced off one time. Rune did beat Zverev on clay in Zverev's home country, actually. Faced off in Munich back in 2022, and Rune did win 6-3, 6-2. Now, both guys had a marathon in their last match. You're looking at, or I should say, Rune had a marathon 2 rounds ago. Beat Kovalik in straight sets in the last match, but he had a 5-setter against Kaboli, where he was down 5-0 into the Super Breaker, and then came back and won 10-7. But he has been in good form so far in the event, all things being considered. Zverev was coasting, beat Nadal in straight sets, beat Goffin in straight sets, and then should have lost to Griekspoor because he was down a double break in the 5th set, and he bounced back to win in a Super Breaker. So I think based on where this line's located, I am going to lean to Rune. I think that Zverev can definitely get the job done. I think that he is the better player. But 225 is a pretty large number for what I think is going to be a competitive match. I don't see much separating these guys. I see a lot of really intense baseline rallying, and I think you're going to end up seeing a potential 5-setter. But I am going to go with the dog here. I just think that this price is a bit off to me. Yes, Zverev did win his last match, but against Griekspoor, he really struggled against the serve and volley tactics. Maybe Rune ends up implementing some of those, but I do think that Rune should be able to maybe take advantage of his rest advantage because he did win in straight sets against Kovalik in the last round, whereas Zverev did have a 5-set marathon. So I am going to lean to Rune, plus the 4 games, plus 4.5, but I am going to lean to the money line as well. I think he's going to keep this match competitive. Will he win? I don't know, but these odds feel a bit off to me. I think Zverev should be closer to minus 180. Minus 190, so give me Rune on the money line as a value play at plus 195. And moving on to the last match we're going to talk about, we have Dimenauer taking on Medvedev, which has been a very fun head-to-head history between the two of them. Now, to get into the odds here, Medvedev is around 2-1. give or take. I see minus 185, though, if you want to shop around. de Minaur is plus 165. For the spread, you have minus 4 for Medvedev, plus 4 for de Minaur. For the over-under, you have either 35 or 36. So shop around somewhere in there. For set wagering, de Minaur plus 1.5 sets is minus 120. Medvedev minus 1.5 sets is minus 110. The over 3.5 sets is minus 160. Now, for this matchup, going through the head-to-head, Medvedev is up 6-2. However, some of the matches have been competitive. They faced off in the U.S. Open, for example, last year. That ended up going to 4 sets. Faced off in Toronto in 2023. That ended up going to straight sets, but it was a 7-6, 7-5. Faced off in Paris in 2022. That went to 3 sets with a 7-5 in the final set. Point is, you have seen a lot of competitive matches between these guys. Medvedev has been dropping some sets, as he dropped a set against Kempfer in the first round, and he dropped a set against Makic in the third round. As for de Minaur, he's dropped a set in just one match here. Did drop a set in the last match against Struff. But based on head-to-head and based on the recent form, I like the over 3.5 sets. Yes, it is juicy at minus 160. Minus 160. I still like it. I think you're looking at de Minaur and Medvedev having moments. I think you're going to see a lot of long rallies. I think these guys are going to kill each other. Should be physical. I think Medvedev eventually does wear down de Minaur because I think that his serve advantage will be the deciding factor. But I am going to go with the over 3.5 sets of minus 160. I think it should be a lot higher, so I am going to go with that as my main pick for that match. That's going to wrap it up for this actual fourth round preview. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks for the end of the show. Before we get into any of that, though, do remind you once again that we are brought to you by Rhythm, because a reminder, when the NBA Finals do start on Thursday, if you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to get Rhythm, because Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game. Make it easy to go through and to find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning the algorithm to give you the best chance at winning. Rhythm does pair its predictions with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, whether it involves DFS or bets. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm does find the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data, without you having to actually scroll through a sports book. Rhythm also allows you to create your own custom NBA models, so you can get AI-backed money line, spread, and total picks for every playoff game. Start a free 7-day trial and start winning your NBA player props with Rhythm, available wherever you do get your podcasts. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the fourth round of the French Open. Now it's time to get into the lock and dog picks for the matches. Now, I did mention before I was skipping some matches because I decided to save those breakdowns for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I am going to go to a match taking place on the second day of the round of 16, taking place on Monday. I am going to go to the Fritz and Ruud match, and I am going to go with Ruud minus 1.5 sets at minus 120. Ruud, we know, has been a very solid clay player for a while. Did make the French Open final in each of the last 2 years. Fritz, though, has not been that dominant so far in the event. He was able to win against Kokkinakis in the last round, but he's dropped at least one set in each of the first 3 matches here. So he's not exactly taking care of business on, I'd say, a dominant way, or in a dominant way against weaker competition. Now he's against Ruud, the 2-time runner-up. I see a massive level, I'd say, skill gap issue between these teams on clay. And you're also looking at him going to 5 sets against Kokkinakis. Yes, a win is a win. 5 sets against Kokkinakis does not exactly instill much confidence, at least for me, to actually trust him against Ruud. Ruud is also 2-0 in the head-to-head. We saw Ruud drop a set to Etcheverry. We saw him drop 2 sets to Fokina. Point is, though, I think Ruud's a very good clay player, obviously. Fritz is really fine on clay. He's, I think, good, but I think Ruud's great on clay. So based on the familiarity with the surface, based on the potential rest advantage, winning in 4 compared to winning in 5 in the previous round, and based on Ruud being up 2-0 in the head-to-head, I think minus 1.5 sets is a good deal here. So give me Ruud minus 1.5 sets of minus 120 against Fritz as my lock. For my dog, I am going to go back to the Dimitrov and Hurkacz match, which we skipped over. I mentioned this when we did the tournament preview, and I'm going to say it again. When these two get together, there's really only one outcome. Dimitrov's going to win, and it's going to be a marathon. That's been the case in about 4 of the 5 head-to-head meetings. So to go through the actual play, I'm going to go Dimitrov to win and both players to win a set. So in other words, Dimitrov to win and the over 3.5 sets at plus 155. Hurkacz has dropped at least 1 set in each of his last 5 matches. Saw him drop a set to Shapo in the previous round, for example. Dimitrov's been great, though. Dimitrov did drop a set to Bergs in the last round. Bergs, I think, is a solid clay player. but he ended up winning the first 2 matches in straight sets. So I do think that Dimitrov is capable of getting the job done once again. He's a minus 125 favorite, so if you want to just play it safe and take the money line, I don't hate it. But I think for the sake of value, if 4 of the 5 head-to-head meetings have gone to a deciding set, then why would I not want to potentially get an extra 80 cents, give or take, on Dimitrov? I don't see him winning in straight sets. I see this going 4 or 5. But Dimitrov always wins in the head-to-head. He's 5-0, and 4 of the 5 ended up going to deciding sets. So with that being the case, I am going to go with Dimitrov to win, and both players to win a set at plus 155 as my dog. So once again, the picks for the 4th round of the French Open, I'm going to go with Ruud as my lock, minus 1.5 sets at minus 120. And for my dog, I am going to go with Dimitrov to win and both players to win a set at plus 155. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. A reminder, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Be back once again for the quarterfinal picks in the French Open. Find me on the NBA show. Find me on the MLB show. Find me on the WNBA show as well. Until next time, though, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.